Welcome back everyone. Now that we have a good understanding of the fundamental concepts in Svelte, let's dive into the component architecture. I know we did talk about components at a very high level early in the series, but now let's go through the topic in a lot more details, as they are pretty much what you need to build medium to large scale enterprise applications. Now similar to React, Vue and Angular, Svelte follows a component based architecture. This lets you break down your application into small encapsulated parts which can then be composed to make more complex user interfaces. For example, a traditional website can be broken down into header, site navigation, main content, and footer. You can say that these particular applications have 5 components. One for header, one for site navigations, one for the main content, one for footer, and finally one component to contain every other component. The containing component is the root component, and it's usually named as app component, written in a file called app.svelte in your application. Each of the 4 nested components describe only a portion of the user interface. However, all the components come together to make up the entire application. Components are also reusable. The same component can be used with different properties to display different information. For example, the side navigation component can be the left side navigation as well as the right side navigation, only the data can change. Now how does a component translate to code in our application? Well, we have seen that bit quite a lot. A component code is usually placed in a .svelte file and contain a script section, a markup section, and a style section. App.svelte is one such example. But in real-world application, you are often going to create tens if not hundreds of components. In this video, let's learn how to create and include a new component in Svelte application. Back in VS Code, you can see that I have created a brand new project called Svelte Components. To learn all about components in Svelte in the app component which is generated for us, let's clear out the code written in the script section as well as the HTML within the main tag. It's only fair we start from scratch. Now let's create our very first Svelte component. The component will simply output a message "Hello Rahul" in the browser. So in the source folder, let's create another folder called Components, which will contain all the components in our application. Within the Components folder, let's create a new file called greet.svelte. This component needs to render the text "Hello Rahul." To add markup, all we have to do is just include it in the file. So needs to tag "Hello Rahul." Alright, we now have the HTML that needs to be rendered in the browser. But as it stands now, the HTML "Hello Rahul" is not going to be rendered in the browser because this greet component is in no way connected with the rest of our application. So what we have to do is import this component in app.svelte and then include it in the app component markup. In the other words, we need to register the greet component with our application. So in the app.svelte, in the script section, we are going to add the import statement. Import greet from ./components/greet.svelte, which is the part to get the greet.svelte file. Now to include this greet component in app component, we specify the component as a custom HTML tag in the markup section. So within the main tag, we add the greet custom HTML tag. Now if there is no content between the tag, we can change it into a self-closing tag. Now if we save all the files and take a look at the browser, you should be able to see text "Hello Rahul." Your first Svelte component is up and running. So that is about components in Svelte. Components describe a part of the user interface. They are reusable and can be nested inside other components. However, we haven't quite seen how they are reusable. Let's learn about that in the next video.